Hey YouTube, it's me, the Student Witch again, and I think this video, or at least my tentative title right now, is going to be to hex or not to hex. That is the question. I've been kind of ruminating on this question of whether or not it's okay for a witch to use his or her, their power, their as a gender neutral pronoun, to use their power for bad or to, let's say, interrupt the will of another. Like I said in my introductory video, I'm not very interested in strictly following the Wiccan path or even calling myself a Wiccan. But like I said, there is a lot to be learned from it. But I know that the law of three, or the threefold law, or whatever you want to call it, that is a very, from what I've researched, a very kind of Wiccan idea. Not just Wiccan, but in a Wiccan context it is, whatever you throw out to the universe, it will come back upon you 3 times stronger. And there's some witches who say, yeah, I basically agree. Maybe it's not just a 1-to-3 ratio, maybe it's a 1-to-1 ratio, or however it works, or it's kind of related to the idea of karma. And this question came up because there's some members of my husband's family in Chile who I wanted to see, and he asked me if I could help them. And this help might involve me kind of banishing or interrupting the will of someone. And the situation, which I'll explain in a second, it just caused me to kind of backtrack and think about, whoa, what do you actually think about this, Student Witch? So the situation is, there's kind of 2 going on, and they both involve my husband's sister-in-law. My husband has a younger brother, just a few years younger, and he is married to a woman. And this woman and her family have been kind of problematic for my husband's brother and my husband's mother. So the situation with the mother, my mother-in-law, she's a very sweet woman. Her other daughter-in-law, right, the problematic daughter-in-law, because I'm a perfect angel. It also helps that I live thousands of miles away. But so her other daughter-in-law, my husband's brother's wife, she has 2 brothers, and they all live in the same neighborhood. And one of these brothers actually physically threatened my mother-in-law, my husband's mother. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but this guy, from what my husband has told me, this guy's a typical asshole. His ego is way too huge, and he thinks he's way more important than he actually is on the grand scale of things. So the question came up, can I make a spell to control this man so that he doesn't actually do anything to my mother-in-law? So that question is still floating around in my mind, and I'll kind of give you my resolution to it in a second. So the other situation, so that is my mother-in-law's daughter-in-law, her other daughter-in-law, and her daughter-in-law's troublesome family. The other situation is involving the same daughter-in-law. So my husband's brother, my brother-in-law, his wife has convinced him to join an evangelical church. I know a lot of people think that in Latin America and the Caribbean and Mexico and Central America, they're predominantly Catholic, and I would say traditionally they are. You know, the Spaniards that came in, they brought Catholicism with them. But especially in the last, I'd say 20 or 30 years, there have been large waves of Protestant sects, Protestantism going through Latin America and the Caribbean and Central America. There's lots of Mormons, Jehovah Witness, and evangelicals. So my husband's brother's wife joined an evangelical church, and she convinced her husband, my brother-in-law, to join, among other things. She's just a very controlling woman, and their relationship isn't very healthy. And another problem is that my brother-in-law, he has been unemployed for over a year, and they just had their second child in January. So they have 2 children. He is unemployed, and she's still on maternity leave. So their financial situation is tight. They're under a lot of stress, and she's convinced him to join this evangelical church, which not too many people are happy about, because sometimes when people join the kind of evangelical sects of their religions, the more extreme versions of their religions, and I'm including Catholics and everything else in this, they become very judgmental and very affrontive with their beliefs. So that just hasn't helped the situation at all, because basically no one in my husband's mother's family likes this woman. She's been very troublesome and judgy. She's just judged people and caused a lot of drama, and now her brothers are causing drama, like I just said, threatening my mother-in-law for whatever reason, and one of her brothers does have some drug addiction issues, so that just makes everything a whole mess. So anyway, my husband asked me this great question. He said, can you do a spell to help my brother open his eyes and kind of stand up to his wife, because a lot of the decisions he makes for her, to just keep her quiet or keep her satisfied, or to give her this feeling that she's in control, which she is. And I thought about it for a second, and I said, ultimately, no. And this kind of brings me back to what I think my personal answer to this question, this grand question, is. No, I'm not going to do a spell so that your brother opens his eyes, because ultimately, even though it might help him grow, it might help him stand up to his wife, and maybe even, I don't know, leave her if that turns out to be what's best for him. Even though that might look good on paper, ultimately, my husband's brother is the one who's going to go through the most stress, whatever decisions he decides to make after, gaining a little bit more independence and standing up for himself and maybe making some major life decisions. So even though it's with the best intention to help him, by making that spell, I might inadvertently cause him to go through a very stressful, painful situation. And it might even cause other members of the family stress. I mean, he has 2 children, 2 young children. I mean, his wife too, and the extended family, which all live in the same neighborhood. So I ultimately decided, no, I shouldn't do that. So coming back to the main question of, is it okay to hex someone or send that negativity out there? I am of the thinking that if you are confident enough in your abilities, and if you are powerful enough, sometimes you don't have a choice. sometimes you have to be offensive before you are defensive. My situation right now is, because I am a newbie, because I'm still at the very beginning of this path, I am not strong enough to be able to withstand any potential repercussions, like karma coming back to me if I do decide to kind of interrupt someone's will. So I'm still trying to figure this out. I might change my mind later as far as the more Wiccan ideas of, the law of three or whatever, or karma. Just for now, I think sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you do have to shoot some negativity out in the universe to cover your own ass or to protect yourself and your family. Or defend yourself from someone else's negativity. Just right now, I'm going to avoid it and just be kind of defensive, like defensive driving. So, that being said, no, I'm not going to do any spells to help my brother-in-law like open his eyes and maybe make some major but painful life decisions, because ultimately he's the one who's going to live and possibly suffer those consequences, not me. I'm 1,000 miles away, or more than 1,000. I'm thousands of miles away. So, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to throw any hexes out at this woman's troublesome brothers or anything. I'm just going to be defensive and just do some protective spells for my mother-in-law. And I'm also going to do a spell to help my brother-in-law find a job, because like I said, he's been unemployed for over a year and he has a growing family and money is tight, and I can't imagine what that stress is like. So the first thing that I'm going to do is explain the candle spell that I'm going to do to help my brother-in-law find a job, which will ultimately help everybody out. So I went to my favorite Mexican tienda in town, and they have a pretty good candle selection, and a lot of the candles I get, they do involve Catholic iconography, but I don't mind that. I was raised Catholic, but I'm definitely not Catholic anymore. But I don't mind the fact that this has St. Jude on it, for example, because if you go back in the history of the church and its own iconography, you'll know a lot of these saints or virgins, especially in Latin America, were based on, pre-existing pagan beliefs and pagan gods and goddesses and spirits and whatnot. So it's just a different name for the same spirit, basically. It's how I view it. So this is St. Jude. The St. Jude candle. It is green. Green for financial prosperity. In this case, financial prosperity brought on by a job. And it even includes, on top of the image, it includes a little oración, a little prayer in Spanish and in English. So it says, "Most Holy Apostle St. Jude, faithful servant and friend of Jesus, pray for me. I find myself feeling desperate during this time of great need," yada yada yada. So because it's green and because, it's a saint or a spirit for times in need, for, St. Jude, I believe, is the saint of lost causes. I might be mixing that up. Correct me if I'm wrong. So my husband's brother is in great need. He needs a job. That's going to help him and his family and reduce a lot of stress and anxiety for everybody. So, like I said earlier, I'm going to cleanse, bless, and dress. So cleansing, sage. Blessing, I made new oils. This is my prosperity oil. It's olive oil, and it has basil in it, dried basil, because basil to me is an herb of prosperity and abundance, and pink Himalayan sea salt for that earthy element. So I'm going to bless the candle with this oil, and then to dress it, on the top I'm going to put more pink Himalayan sea salt, some homemade Florida water, some dried rose petals, some more dried basil, and I'm going to periodically sprinkle more basil onto it whenever I feel like it needs more energy. And then, to sweeten the deal, honey. I usually put a few drops of honey whenever I'm doing a spell for attracting something good. In this case, a job for my brother-in-law is very good. So, some honey. So that's my St. Jude candle. As far as my mother-in-law goes, like I said, I'm going to think more defensive than offensive with this. So I'm going to do some protection work and banishment. Banishment of negativity and any evil intentions, and protection. So, Saint Michael, he's one of my favorites. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, protect us from wickedness and evil. So Saint Michael, in that Catholic myth, he cast Satan out of heaven. So it's a very masculine, protective, virile energy, defensive energy. And I've done a lot of work with Saint Michael, that spirit or idea. So I am actually going to do two things to protect mi suegra, my mother-in-law. I'm going to, cleanse the candle with the sage. I'm going to dress the candle this time with a banishing oil that I made. And it has sea salt because, like most of us know, sea salt is used to draw those boundaries and, tell whatever negativity you cannot enter. So it has sea salt and rosemary inside. Fresh rosemary. There's 3 sprigs of rosemary in there. So that's what I'm going to use to dress the candle. To bless the candle. And then to dress it, I have some more fresh rosemary. I have cinnamon, another protective herb, more sea salt, more Florida water. Florida water is excellent for protection. And then I'm going to do something interesting. I picked this fresh rosemary from my favorite rosemary plant. So I'm actually going to tie this rosemary around the candle like this. And then I have some more rosemary here, fresh rosemary. And I also have 1 red rose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a doll, or a puppet, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to make a doll of my mother-in-law with this rose. And I'll use this rosemary to make the arms and the legs. And I have star anise for the heart. Star anise to me is a very spiritual. It's not only, for divination or for third eye opening. You can put this under your pillow for your dreams and divination and things like that, or make a pendulum out of it. But it's also, spirituality is not just the third eye, it's also about opening your heart. It's about honing your emotional skills and your intuition and your skills, your empathic skills, and that's in the heart to me. So this will be her heart on the doll, and the rose, this will be her head. So I'm gonna have, and it's red like the candle, so this doll is gonna represent her, and this candle is gonna work with it to work for her protection against her other daughter-in-law's troublesome family. So that is what I've got going on for this evening. So to wrap everything up, I'm not going to throw the idea of hexing out the window, but I do know for now I'm not strong enough, I don't have enough knowledge, I don't have enough practice. I'm still a newbie, so I'm going to avoid it for now, not use it for now, and only use my powers for good. I hope you guys enjoy and have a wonderful evening, and blessed be. Bye.